So I call the Committee of the Whole meeting for March 7, 2023 to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee DEYNE? Gansey?
Here.
Gunstein?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Laporte?
Here.
SUWANSKI?
Here.
President Wallace.
Here. We will be going through the Finance and Golf Committee, budget review, Finance and Golf Committee Chairman DEYNE.
I'm going to just basically turn this over to Tom, while we have some people here. I didn't have access to that on the computer, the notes to that, so Paula helped me along here a little bit.
Sure. What didn't you have access to, Ray?
That part of the budget.
It was a separate download.
It was a separate email.
Okay. All right.
Sent it out separately. It wasn't in this board packet. It was previously sent to you.
Oh, we're just going to turn it over to Chief, right? Where to Paula?
Me.
Going with police first, and then planning and development and golf. We really going to cram this all in an hour?
No, but we're going to start and then finish after.
I feel sorry for golf then, because that's probably going to be at like 9:30.
All right. Well, just real quickly, I'd like to take a minute and thank Finance Director Todd Dowden and the finance staff, as well as the admin staff, who worked to put together the budget document. It's not an exaggeration to say that it takes hundreds of hours to put together its development and put it into a document that we can all work off of. Of course, that includes each department's proposals that are carefully crafted as well. The budget before you is balanced, and I'm confident that it meets the needs of our community. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to the staff. I know that they are prepared to present their budgets and answer your questions, and we'll start with police.
Good evening. On behalf of the Bartlett Police Department, thank you for providing us with the opportunity to present our proposed 23-24 budget. We truly appreciate the support we received from you, Village President Wallace, and the Board of Trustees in order to fulfill our mission and vision to serve with care and protect with confidence. I would like to start off with the infographic that management analyst Joey Deinberg put together, followed by some highlights in the police department's budget summary. I'm extremely proud of our staff who continue to embrace what we call doing things the Bartlett way, to provide exceptional service to our residents, civic groups, and business community. So in case you're not aware, the Bartlett Police Department has been a law enforcement accredited agency since 1997. We're only 5% of Illinois agencies, and about 7% of nationwide agencies are credited through CALEA. We completed our year 3 CALEA remote web-based assessment, and we're getting ready for our 4th year web-based review on June 9th through June 16th, followed by our on-site assessment during the week of July 24th through July 27th. We're scheduled for our 8th reaccreditation at the CALEA conference in Bellevue, Washington on November 7th through November 12th. In regard to traffic safety, the police department worked to improve safety along the US 20 and Illinois Route 59 corridors by conducting directed enforcement of speeding, impaired driving, and distracted driving violations. In 2022, we arrested 561 aggravated speeders, and those are individuals who are driving 26 miles or more over the posted speed limit. 271 of those offenses occurred on Lake Street, and 38 of those offenses occurred on Illinois Route 59. Last year, we arrested 106 DUI drivers. We also issued a total of 8,138 citations from February 15, 2022 to February 15, 2023. In regard to grants, the police department was awarded over $25,000 as part of the IDOT Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program, or we refer to as the STEP grant. And that's to target seatbelt violations, impaired driving, distracted driving, and speeding violations. We were recently just awarded over $28,000 for our next traffic safety grant, which runs from October 23 to September of 2024. The police department is already making preparations in anticipation of the increased traffic issues and complaints with the start of the Illinois Route 59 and West Bartlett Road intersection improvement projection. The police department was awarded second place in the municipal police category of 51 to 65 officers in the 21-22 Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge. The Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge is a template for law enforcement agencies to identify traffic issues, plan strategies, and provide an opportunity to contribute to the Illinois Strategic Highway Safety Plan. Agencies are judged in police, training, recognition, public education, enforcement, and effectiveness. We continue to invest in the training of our police officers. Last year, we dedicated approximately 14,000 training hours during the calendar year. Last year, we collaborated with the Bartlett Fire Protection District for a rescue task force training, which we were given an honorable mention for IRMA's Innovative Risk Management Award to recognize members that exhibit a commitment to the safety of their employees, facilities, and public. Our police department is also one of the few Illinois agencies to train its officers in ICAT de-escalation training developed by the Police Executive Research Forum, also known as PERF. This research-proof training is designed to provide our police officers with the tools, skills, and opportunities they need to successfully and safely diffuse situations involving persons who are unarmed or are armed with weapons other than firearms and who may be experiencing a mental health or other crisis. In regard to community events, we are a part of the Bartlett community, and we truly believe in the importance of building positive police-community relationships. Last year, we welcomed back our police open house, which had approximately 900 residents come through, and we're preparing for our next open house on April 23rd. We participate in several new community events, such as the Books with Badges event, and the Cocoa with the Cops as the Village Cocoa Crawl, also the Arts and Bartlett Pet and Fall Festival, and the Oktoberfest. As you are aware from our last board meeting, this was the 9th time our National Night Out Award. We placed first place, which also marks the 2nd consecutive year obtaining first place finish. And, you know, it's nice to get the accolades, but more importantly, we all see what having 29 years of National Night Out does with this community. It just builds the bonds with our residents, civic groups, and business community. And I'd like to thank all of you for being there as well, too, supporting not only the picnic in the park, but all the lead-in events, too. Besides reviewing the special event applications, the police department will be a part of the village's special event planning committee and is also part of the village-wide emergency management team to prioritize the safety of all of our community and special events. And speaking of safety, I just want to give you an example of just some of the stuff that we did to make last year's 4th of July celebration safe. So the police department provided safety and security during the 4th of July festival and Independence Day parade at Apple Orchard. The police department spent about $35,000 on personnel costs to staff the 4-day event, and we are already beginning preparations for the 5-day event that will take place this year. In response to the active shooter incident that occurred in Highland Park, the police department assigned additional police officers to the festival area on the 4th of July. The police department also worked closely with the Fire Protection District, Park District, and 4th of July Committee to monitor weather conditions. If you remember, on the 4th of July, the decision was made to evacuate the festival area shortly after it started due to severe weather concerns. The decision was also made to move up the start time of the fireworks display and then evacuate the festival area immediately afterwards due to more severe weather concerns. It doesn't matter what it takes. We think everything through. The placement of our AEDs at the festival area in case somebody has a medical emergency, the placement of our pole cameras, our light towers, our emergency weather shelters, our zones of responsibility, and also developing our emergency action plan, which Kyle and Sam are going to speak to later on tonight. Giving back. This is one thing that we're really proud of. Last year, this was the first time our police department members raised $15,000 in support of Special Olympic athletes. And for that feat, we will be placed on the Illinois Torch Run t-shirt on the back of being one of those agencies that contributed $15,000 to that cause. How do we do that? We did it through the Law Enforcement Torch Run, Polar Plunge, Row for Dough, and Cop on Rooftop events, which a lot of you were there and supported that, and we appreciate that too. We also hosted a holiday toy drive, diaper drive, food, school supplies, and pet supplies as part of our National Night Out to benefit Hanover and Wayne Township communities. So now I just want to move on to just some of the budget highlights. So the police department's 23-24 budget has increased by 6%. The increase is mostly attributed to increased due comp fees, which I'll explain to you, personnel costs, insurance premiums, pension obligations, the promotional exam process, which I'll explain, uniform and bulletproof vest allowance, and the CALIA conference, which I mentioned earlier for the reaccreditation hearing. The budget also includes requests to utilize $202,768 in equitable sharing funds for the following expenses. But before I begin, I know that some of you may be not familiar with what equitable sharing is. So we have a police officer that's assigned to the DEA task force, and she's assigned currently at Midway Airport, and she will be going back to actually the train stations as well too. So what she does is she works with other police departments and federal agents. They get tips on people who are distributing either drugs or drug funds or money through the airports or through the train stations. And then they develop through their investigation, they speak with people, and sometimes they're able to seize a large amount of money, which if we are part of, or if our agency led that investigation, we get contributed that money, which could be used for certain law enforcement related expenses only. In that account, we almost have $1 million in available equitable sharing funds that does not come out of the normal budget. So some of the things we're looking to spend in the capital outlay, and I'll speak more about each one of these items in the capital outlay portion that we'd like to use equitable sharing funds for, would be our mobile video recorders, which the village board already approved the 5-year agreement on, if you remember a few months ago. Our body-worn cameras, our TASER CEW weapons, a ZEDX program, and a frontline professional tracker module. In regard to service agreements, we would also like to utilize equitable sharing funds for year two of our flock license plate readers, which the village board approved the agreement last year as well too, for the amount of $17,500. In addition, the police department is seeking village board approval in this current budget for a full-time contractual social worker in the village's professional services account. This would increase our social workers' current hours from 20 hours per week to 40 hours per week. We partnered with NEDFIS, and they're the ones that provided us our part-time social worker, and the program has been absolutely invaluable. So what we get from NEDFIS is not only a highly skilled and trained social worker, but they also provide us with opportunities trying to get grants. For instance, last year they put together a grant for the Hanover Township 708 Challenge Grant, which allowed our part-time social worker to have 4 more hours to participate in our social work program. And they also attempted to get a grant through the Cook County group to get our full-time social worker, but that grant didn't go through. So what we would, since the inception, our social workers received over 150 different referrals from residents, village, and police department personnel. I know that Village Administrator Schumacher shared with you an email about just some of the impacts that our current social worker had. If you didn't have a chance to read it, I'd just like to go over some of those because it really gave me goosebumps when I heard what happened. So one of the things we tasked our social worker for was to start a diversion program. We wanted to start it for tobacco offenses first. So the very first individual who she met for the tobacco diversion program, she realized that youth disclosed suicidal ideations, and she was able to complete an evidence-based suicide screening tool to provide immediate interventions to ensure the safety of that youth and potentially save this individual's life. I mean, this is something that we just cannot do from a police department standpoint. She also worked with a female that was exhibiting psychotic features and was residing in an abandoned vehicle. After developing a rapport with the individual, she was able to provide options, and as a department, they were able to coordinate transporting her to the DuPage County Crisis Center for mental health and housing stabilization. I just want to give one more example, too. There was a client who had mental illness that was charged with criminal damage to property. Instead of just bringing them to criminal court, she actually successfully completed the mental health illness court alternative program referral through DuPage County, and that person now is able to get mental health treatment instead of just standard sentencing. Some of the other highlights, too, that I was just looking through the quarterly reports they provide us with is she helped one individual who actually, because of her help, stopped calling 911 since the initial appointment. Also, too, she was able to help one individual find her own house and eliminate repeat domestic calls within the family home. So just an invaluable service to the Bartlett community. So what would be looking to do for, if we would go full-time and get approval is, we'd like to expand that diversion program. So instead of just doing tobacco, we would like to expand it to alcohol and cannabis offenses, which are the majority of our local ordinance offenses, especially with teenagers. Also, too, our full-time social worker would be in charge of the formal and informal station adjustments in DuPage County for certain juvenile criminal offenses in lieu of referring them to juvenile court. Also, too, we believe that with a full-time social worker, we're ready to implement what's called a co-responder model, where they would respond to the scene as soon as it's deemed safe, instead of waiting for the referral program, which we currently have. That is how most police departments are treating their full-time social workers. And then also, there's an array of stuff that's supposed to be coming up with the launch of the 988 Mental Health Helpline, the CESA Act, which is supposed to go in effect in July of 2023, and the proposed DuPage County Health Department Central Receiving Center, which the board supported. They would be our liaison for that. Just moving along, just some other highlights I just want to bring up. As you know, we're very active on social media. We currently have 4,800 Twitter followers and 12,000 plus Facebook followers, which is invaluable how we get our message out to everybody. And as part of that, we just want to thank the mayor and Paula for doing the Pitch Fest, which our staff and others came together to do a communications committee. And it's really going to help streamline some of our social media messaging. And also, too, actually, one of the deputy chiefs from Geneva just came out to our police department just asking how we do things, because we do it the Bartlett way, we do it right. And we were just invited by the Buffalo Grove Director of Communications and Community Engagement to be a part of a panel of the 3 CMA Regional Conference in the city of Chicago coming up. So myself and Gaby Infacino will be participating in that. For some long-term goals, in case you're not aware, one of our supervisors, Sergeant Johnson, and Human Resources Director Janelle Terrence were selected to part in a DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion pilot program through UIC Great Cities. We were just 14 of 31 communities to be selected for that initiative. Also part of the strategic planning is, as you know, we work with the schools because safety of our students are our #1 priority. This is on page 5. So in case you're not aware, and this was actually from the National Household Travel Survey, in 1969, 42% of kids walked or biked to school, with just 16% arrived in private vehicles. In 2017, ratio flipped with 54% of kids being dropped off by cars and 10.4 by foot or bicycle. And that is the challenge that our community has and that our traffic unit has worked towards. And with your assistance, as you know, that's why we were able to put up the new signage over at Sycamore Trails School. And the next project that we're working on is over at Prairie View Elementary School. And that's because, as you see, a lot of our older schools are in older neighborhoods that aren't really set up for all the traffic coming and going. And then lastly, just with some of the highlights, in case you're not aware, from a crime prevention standpoint, I just want to highlight that we partnered with the Hanover Park Police Department. We value our partnerships with other agencies to offer free catalytic converter theft prevention events at Suburban Tire. We had 2 events. We were only like one of 2 agencies that started that. That was us in Schaumburg. And as a result, we got numerous phone calls from different agencies asking how we did it, because it was very successful. And then with all the Hyundais and Kias that were stolen, we worked with Hyundai, and they provided us with 50 free wheel locks for Bartlett residents, and so far, we handed out 35 plus of those devices. So moving on to the police summary. As you can see, our authorized staffing remains the same. So currently, we're down one police officer. A few years ago, we asked the board for 2 additional police officers for 2 additional years. We're down 1, but we're anticipating with some retirements and some other stuff, by May, we'll probably be down another 7 police officers. As you can see by the activity measures, we're full force. Even after COVID, all of our numbers compared to last year are just continuing to increase, and we're starting to see more FOIA requests than we have before. Not only more FOIA requests, but more complex FOIA requests, which Sam and actually our staff has done a nice job navigating. Moving on to the capital outlay request on page 11.
Can I ask a quick question? I looked at your police summary. Why are the training hours so much lower than previous years?
So there's 2 different training hours. That's a great question. So some of our training hours that I first referenced are from calendar year. The other have to do with physical year. And the reason why they were a little bit lower than years before is because we were still under some COVID restrictions. We weren't able to host some of the training, and neither was NEMR able to provide that type of training. But we're full go with no actually restrictions. And we're currently actually hosting an FBI negotiator training, which one of our officers is in actually today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So in regard to the capital outlay, first thing we're requesting is to replace 3 patrol vehicles. So one of the vehicles has 85,000 miles with 15,000 engine hours. Another vehicle has over 90,000 miles with 12,000 engine hours, and another vehicle has 80,000 miles with 900 engine hours. It meets all the criteria on the replacement guidelines on the evaluation form. And just something to bring up that actually Dan mentioned, but I also want to highlight too. On an average, it used to take us 6 to 8 weeks to get our vehicles. We are now looking at about 10, 11 months before we start seeing our vehicles. For instance, the vehicles that we placed and got approval from the village board in October, they still have not processed our order yet. They haven't even started building them. So that's just something to bring up that, yes, our vehicles currently have those higher miles, but they'll even be higher by the time the new vehicles come in. Number 2 has to do with the mobile video recorders, which, as I mentioned, the village board authorized the 5-year agreement with. So we're just waiting in a queue to get those. At the latest, we would get those in by November, at the earliest, July, we were told. I just spoke to Axon yesterday. So as part of the MVRs, we're also asking the village board to approve a 5-year agreement for body-worn cameras. So it's part of the Safety Act, which states that police departments of our size agency need to have them before January 1st, 2025. By going through Axon, they would be an integral part of our solution. They would tie in with our mobile video recorders and then also our TASER CEW devices. And more importantly, they have a program called evidence.com that the majority of the counties utilize for us to transfer our evidence over to. So we haven't really seen a lot of grants since the Safety Act went into effect. There was a small agency tribal grant which we didn't apply because we were more than 50 sworn officers and we're not considered a rural agency. There was a Federal Department of Justice grant, which we weren't eligible because we already put in the budget. And even though the budget wasn't approved, we weren't eligible for it because of that. We're currently looking at the Let's Be body camera and MVR program, trying to supplement things. And then there was 2 House bills out there. One was for appropriating $80 million from the general fund to the law enforcement camera grant. I just spoke to the state representative. He doesn't even believe it's going to make it out of committee. And then there's another one out there where they're looking to do a statewide digital repository for all the law enforcement agencies, but who knows even if that'll go into effect as well, too.
The MVRs that we had before that are no longer have parts, how long did we have those?
So we had a rollout program. So Chris, if Chris is online, he would probably have a better gauge since he helps manage the program, but it's been numerous years since we had those. And it's to the point now that this vendor literally no longer has the parts or anything, so that's why we had to move when we did for the mobile video recorders, because we were in a queue, and with all the supply chain issues, they mentioned it was probably going to be November until they came in.
Do they, Chief, do they put a minimum size? I didn't see that in the Safety Act for body cameras, minimum size department.
I'm sorry, say again, Mayor?
Do they have a minimum size department for the body cams? You said that we have enough officers that were required to have body cams. So as part of the Safety Act, is there like a minimum number where they don't need body cameras?
No, so what they're doing for the Safety Act is you have to implement it by a certain date.
The
It start-
January 25.
Well, for us, and then for other agencies, it's actually starting this year, and then larger agencies the year before. So the one thing that they have in some of the proposed bills is changing some of the language to redefine what a uniform officer is who would be required to carry a body camera. But the way that the law currently reads is, for instance, all of our staff works all the special events like the 4th of July, so that the way it's currently read in the statute is, we would all be required to have body cameras on, just in case it went to a situation where we had to go hands-on, or if it wasn't just what they call a community caretaking function.
Gotcha.
So the other thing that we're asking for is for new TASER CEWs. We just recently learned that TASER actually is on TASER 10. So we currently have 22 active TASERs. 3 of them were older than the 17-18 budget. 5 of them were in the 17-18 budget. 7 of them were in the 19-20 budget. 7 of them were in the 2021 budget. So when we talk to Axon, they will only provide liability insurance for any type of malfunction for devices that are 5 years or less. So the TASERs we currently have, we're probably 2 to 4 generations where they need to be. So currently, they just introduced TASER 10s, but I believe that TASER 7 just provides more benefits, and it'll just bring us up to speed with the older technology that we're currently using. Number 5 is a milestone camera server. So that is the server that hosts all the police department surveillance videos, and more importantly, the videos that's in our jail area and jail cell area, which is required by the IDOC standards. It's at end of life, and so as a result, it's something that we really can't go without. So when I talked to Chris, who kind of put together the figures with us, he's expecting it to last probably 5 years with this device.
How old is the one that we currently have?
So it's kind of a shame that came with the new police department that we had, and pretty much year 1 into the new police facility, the vendor deemed it to be end of life. So as a result, we have a lot of trouble when it goes down, just trying to get it serviced, or they won't even provide the software upgrades for it.
Did we buy it new for the,
We did buy it new, that is correct.
and 1 year into it, they said it was,
It's considered by the vendor then being, end of life. On the next page, page 12, we're requesting 12 additional patrol rifles. We currently have 5 patrol rifles, and by bringing the 3 rifles up, everyone on our shift would have a department-owned rifle. So currently, we have department-owned rifles, and then you can buy your own rifles. What we're seeing with the newer officers is they're using the department rifles, where some of the more veteran officers were more inclined to buy their own rifles. So like, for instance, myself, Jim, and Will, and then all the commanders behind me pretty much have their own rifles, but it's just a different wave of what the new officers are doing. For our SROs, we're looking to purchase 2 rifle-rated shields. These would come in the event, God forbid, we would have some type of bad tragedy. They're our first responders. They're going to be the first ones inside the building because that's where they're stationed. So it would just give us them that extra layer of protection to defend themselves and to defend the students and staff in the case of an active shooter situation. So the ZEDX program, I'm sorry, what I failed to mention is for the MVRs, the body cameras, and the tasers, we would be asking to use the equitable sharing out of those. Same thing too with the ZEDX program. So the ZEDX program is a platform that allows our detectives or investigators to visualize and analyze call detail records and third-party device location information to quickly interpret patterns, generate leads, and solve criminal investigations. From talking to the majority of the police departments around here, the majority of their detective staff uses this program, and this is something that our detectives have requested. The next program was requested from our accreditation manager. So you might be heard of it in the past budgets. We have a program called Frontline. We mostly use it for our overnight parking requests. We also use it for our vacation watches, which if you looked at the Bartlett survey, the majority of half of our residents stated that they felt that service was excellent or good. And this would just be an additional module to help out with our accreditation efforts. So part of our accreditation efforts is every year we need to compile reports and charts in regard to use of force, internal affairs, and vehicle pursuits. Currently, it takes our accreditation manager 4 to 5 full days, and it's just a lot of time work. He had a chance to see this, and he really feels that it would benefit us. And more importantly, too, we use a paper system for tracking our use of force reports. It means if somebody has a use of force incident, they fill out a report, it goes to their immediate supervisor, it then goes to the use of force training commander, which is Rob, then it goes to Jim, then it goes to me. This would pretty much streamline the event, very similar to what code enforcement or community development has, where they can see in the queue where it is in there, and then we can respond to the officer or to the other people in line if they haven't had a chance to review our use of force reports. Next thing we're asking is, and I'm going to just share a quote that some people say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I do have the pictures to go along with this too. So one thing we're asking for is an equipment room storage system. So believe it or not, when our new police facility was built, thank you. What happened is they just provide the shelving in our inventory room. And so we have a whole bunch of old rifle lockers and shotgun rifles that were donated by other staff where we keep our equipment in. And, by having them in there, it's not really well organized, as you'll see in some of the pictures. And also, too, we do a weekly audit of all of our stuff, which makes it very difficult trying to keep track of everything. We think by going to this equipment storage system, we would be able to better properly take care of our equipment, get to our equipment quicker, and then also have more accountability for our equipment as well, too. The next thing is number 11. We're requesting 4 AED machines and 2 training machines. These are used to train our staff, not only our staff, but village staff, our school crossing guards, and our Citizen Police Academy students. In case you're not aware, we just recognized 2 of our officers for a life-saving award for having an incident where they used the AED and saved somebody's life at the Jane Society. And also with that, in case you're not aware, we have had at least 13 AED saves since we implemented them in our squad fleet since 2015. And also part of this is we're applying for ComEd's Powering Safe Communities grant, which would be a matching grant. So if we do get that grant, they would pay for half of the $8,200 compared to us. So we're always looking for opportunities to try to find some grants. And then lastly, I already talked about the importance of what we do for our traffic enforcement. And we would be asking for a laser tech handheld LiDAR device, which helps us just to provide important traffic enforcement tool for our officers.
So I have a couple of questions. The milestone camera system server would be the surveillance for the cells, detention area, the records area, everything that's in the police department.
That's correct, and more importantly, for the jail cell area and the detention area.
And then we have the Frontline Professional Tracker module, and Frontline was the company that's going to be the server for the the body worn cameras or for the storage, for the,
Oh, no, so that's through Axon. That's through Axon's evidence.com program.
okay.
Comes with all their products.
Okay, because it seems like you've got different servers for different things. I mean, isn't there a way to streamline this to where all these different videos are stored in the same place? For the license plate trackers, the body camera?
Unfortunately, no. It's just the way that the business is. We try to go with the best industry standards for any of our tools. So therefore, that's not really a one-stop shop for everything. The best one-stop shop for everything is going to be Axon, and that is why it's our recommendation to utilize that for body cameras, our MVRs, as well as our taser devices, because it also connects with the evidence.com, which is the manner that 2 out of the 3 counties that we utilize, that's how they take their evidentiary stuff when we bring it to court. Currently, right now, if we have evidence, our evidence custodian has to manually make videos on DVRs and then has to manually bring them to the different courthouses. With the evidence.com, everything will be digitally, and then it'll be sent digitally to those courthouses, and then he won't have to put things on physical media anymore, nor will he have to go to the courthouses. But in regard to the milestone, that is pretty much the hardware, or I would say the guts of the camera system that we have. The Frontline is just a software, and that's, as I mentioned, what we use for our overnight parking, and we also use for our extra patrols that we do, Patrick mentioned in years past, and then for other stuff like that. But the extra module that we're requesting would help us out for our accreditation efforts for the reports that are required by them. And then, I'm sorry, really quick too, actually Flock has a partnership with Axon. I just don't know currently if we would be utilizing what they have some of their stuff on. Because, I'm sorry, Axon offers MVRs that have built-in LPRs, but we're not requesting built-in LPRs on our cars. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Do we use a repair facility in Carroll Stream on Army Trail and County Farm Road?
For our vehicles?
Yes.
So currently, we take our vehicles to 3 different places. For major work, we bring it to Hawk Ford and St. Charles. For the majority of our work and oil changes and other stuff, we bring it to Bungee's on Lake Street. And then if we have any tire type of issues, we bring it to Goodyear because they give us the state contract pricing for the Goodyear tires for their vehicles.
Okay.
Chief, can you reiterate the broad guidelines for equity sharing, what uses we can use the funds for? It's got to be new stuff, right?
It does have to be new stuff, and all the stuff that we requested in the current budget, we actually ran it past our compliance manager, and she mentioned those would be appropriate uses for equitable sharing funds. Because one thing we don't want to do is request to use equitable sharing funds, and then we later find out that we couldn't use them at all. We actually almost ran into an issue a few years ago, I think it was with some of the helmets that we got, where we got a grant and then we got a nasty letter from the Department of Justice that we shouldn't have used our equitable sharing from. So that's why we were very careful of the different years that we put stuff in here instead of paying for everything in advance, and everything that we worked through, we reached out on every single topic to make sure it would be appropriate to use those funds.
Yeah, I'm assuming that all these other items that are on here that aren't using the equitable sharing, we actually ran that past somebody to see if we could use it, like the milestone camera system server.
For some of those, we actually didn't. Reason being is because if you take a look at like the Axon expenses, especially for the body cameras, you're looking at $500,000 over 5 years. And as I mentioned, yes, we have $1 million in that account, but one thing that they ask through equitable sharing is you can't pretty much predict what you're going to have in the future. You should just solely rely on what you currently have.
Okay.
Really should not be, funding multi-year things, especially if you don't have those funds in the account. That's correct.
We purchased the drones from Equitable Sharing, is that?
I believe we did.
So the equitable sharing would cover just the first year if it's awarded, And then subsequent years, do you renew, is it renewable, or the village covers the 4 years?
So it would be our intent to try to cover all the years in equitable sharing, but by doing it year by year, if there's ever an opportunity for a grant, which we're hoping eventually there will be, we believe we will have a better chance of getting that grant because you're really not supposed to use grants to supplement, or equitable sharing to supplant grants, stuff like that.
So do you have a pretty good shot at getting the $185,268 that you're requesting from equitable sharing?
All the stuff that we're requesting from equitable sharing, yes.
So then basically, you're only asking the taxpayer for $193,000. If you get all the equitable sharing, then the 378 comes down to 193, which seems reasonable. So if you look at your bottom line, your total is 378, but if you do receive the equitable sharing, then you're only asking the taxpayer for $193,000.
I'm sorry, which one are you looking at?
Page 13 at the bottom, just your bottom line for your capital outlay.
Yeah, so the 185 of what equitable sharing would not come out of taxpayer funds. It would come out exactly out of equitable sharing.
Right, but the way it's added up here, it looks like you're asking for 378 total.
That's because that also includes a vehicle replacement fund and some other capital items, that's why.
Right, but I'm saying your number would look better if you deducted the 185, the 185,000.
Because it's coming from equitable sharing, not,
That's all. It's a good thing.
I understand.
The,
Putting out.
Yep. I got you.
Okay, moving along to professional development. Our professional development increased 19%, mostly due to the CALIA conference and reaccreditation hearing. I want to go over some quick highlights. As I mentioned in there, so for the Northwestern Center for Public Safety, we're looking to send one officer to be a certified crash investigator. We currently have 3 crash investigators, and one's going to be retiring with Eric Roger. The CALIA conference I kind of mentioned in detail. For the next bottom items for the homicide investigators conference and juvenile officers conference, what we decided to do is do a staggering approach. We used to send all of our staff each year to everything, so we're going to do a staggering approach. For instance, for the homicide investigators, we're going to send 4 this year and then 4 next year. And then for the juvenile officers, 2 this year and then 2 next year, instead of sending all of them through. On the page 16 for the Illinois School Resource Officer Association, we just found out that School District U46 is willing to cover the cost of the registration for our school resource officers. This year's International Chiefs of Police Conference is in San Diego, which I'm anticipating myself and a deputy chief of going, which last year we sent 4 command staff to. On the next page, one of the new items that we're asking for is the FBI Executive Leadership Institute. So we believe in building the bench, and we send all of our new supervisors first to the 2-week Northwestern School of Staff and Command, and then the 10-week class. And this would be similar to this, and we're just really excited for this opportunity because it's a new leadership opportunity compared to either Staff and Command or PERF, which some of us have gone to or are going to. One of the other training, too, that we're looking to implement is the Gracie Survival Tactics Instructor course. So in case you're not aware, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is already taught in the police academy. It's actually the primary source for ground fighting in the police academy. And actually, the director of PTI, who is one of the 2 police academies that we go to, Director Schlosser, mentioned in an email when we reached out to him about how they train, and it stated that he encourages all recruits to continue training in jiu-jitsu after they graduate from the academy. Just because it's a gentle martial arts, it's a lot of just control tactics. And then,
Chief, is that coming here? Is he going to teach it here?
so he would go to an instructor course, and then he would bring it back here.
Okay.
So we used to have actually several police officers or supervisors before they retired that actually brought ground fighting to the police department. They were the first ones actually to implement it then at the other suburban law enforcement academy. So this would just in order to teach people, you just need to be certified as an instructor, so that's what we would be looking to do. What we're noticing is a lot of our newer officers maybe haven't been involved in a fight before, and what we notice is a lot of our altercations actually end up on the ground. So it's just really nice to have that skill for officers to know whether they land on their back or on top of somebody, that they can get through this situation peacefully without potential harm to themselves or to the offender who they're trying to take in custody.
Yeah.
The one item for the TASER instructor recertification is a little deceiving. It's not a new concept. So we need to recertify every 2 years. We currently have 3 TASER supervisors, and that's why we're asking, and that's why it's showing a new item, even though we do it every 2 years. So one of the new things that we're looking to implement for our records team is this PRI management, and this is records training. So one thing we noticed, there's a lot of training that we do for our staff, but most of it's really for our sworn officers. For this training, it would provide some additional training opportunities for like eliminating risk and liability in records, records as an evidence, management, retention, and disposition, managing police records, leadership and police records, and some other classes to give them just some viable skills. And then the Celebrite is one of the devices we use to extract phone data, and we parcel it out into reliable data. Chris Mead, who is one of our detectives, long-term detectives, just retired, and he was the one that held that certification. That's why we're looking to send 2 detectives to that. And one of the other new items is supervising the field training process. As I kind of mentioned, we are going through a lot of new recruits. As I mentioned, we're anticipating 7 new officers come May. So we currently have the FTO commander, who is Rob, who's behind me, and we have an FTO supervisor with Maria Flores and Brian Camarada. This will give us another one of our supervisors to manage actually our field training officers in that program to make sure that our new police officers are up to par for the Bartlett community. Okay, moving on to professional development. We're looking for a 6% increase due to NIPAS cost, the Cook County Children's Advocacy Center, and child is missing fees. So a child is missing, we've actually been paying for years, we've just never shown it in any budget. The benefit we get from that is if we ever have a child that's missing, they have a program similar to Code Red, except it goes beyond the boundaries of Bartlett, and they do all the notifications and posters for us if we have any missing children. The Cook County Children's Advocacy Center, anytime we have a sex assault or abuse case involving a juvenile, it needs to be a trained forensic interviewer, so they're the ones that do all the interviews, and each county has one. So it was an increase of $500 from last year. And then the other increase in here has to do with, we're part of NIPAS, which is the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. We have 1 officer on the emergency response team and 2 on the mobile field force. The emergency response team is a specialized warrant team that we utilized actually last year during a drug warrant. Moving on to public safety expenditures and line item justification. The personnel services, the percentages that you see there were put together by the finance department. One of the notable changes you'll see is an 8% decrease in our crossing guards. We had a chance to take a good look of the amount that we're paying them, and we believe that is a good number to go with. And actually, we're going to take a look at the end of the year, too, to see next budget cycle if we can decrease that. Yeah, thank you. So really quickly, line item justification. Service agreements went up 12% due to Verizon phone expenses moved from equipment rentals. So all the supervisors, specialty units, and task force members have a work-related phone. It's not good business to mix your work phone with your personal stuff. In regard to equipment rentals, that was a 62 decrease due to Verizon phone expenses being moved to service agreements. Computer services was a 7% decrease due to the reduction of the Cook County-wide network connection fee. Our advertising, we're asking for 11% increase due to police officer testing process and recruitment. This current year, we went through 3 police officer testing processes, which we got to pay for the Blue Line and several other expenses. Our towing, we felt we could reduce 50%. They don't charge us for village vehicles unless it's within 10 miles of the village of Bartlett. So that would only really happen for our task force officer, or if we are picking up a car that was recovered stolen in another car. Our biggest fee is going to be in the communications section. It's 11% increase due to DUCOM fees. So it's a substantial cost, and some of the reasons they told me is our authorized strength went from 61 to 63, and it's a 5-year smoothing average, as the first 2 years of the 5-year smoothing was 56. 4 DUCOM agencies reduced their authorized strength. Operations budget from DUCOM increased by 10%. 89.13 of DUCOM's budget is for personnel cost. The telecommunications contract expired, and they have been in negotiations, and that's to reflect the increase that they want to give some of their telecommunicators and some of the stuff like that. Vehicle maintenance, we're looking at an 8% increase. What we're noticing, it's higher labor costs and higher price of cost for parts due to inflation. Our vehicle setup costs went up 53%. Same thing due to increased equipment and shipping costs. No increase for auto body repairs. Uniforms, we're looking at a 23% increase due to anticipated increase in the uniform and bulletproof vest allowance per the upcoming CBA, if it gets approved. Our bulletproof vest partnership, we get $11,000 from the U.S. Bureau of Justice, and they do a matching grant. So currently, it's costing us about $800 per vest. So we get a matching grant where they pay for approximately $400 of that. Subscriptions, we're looking at a 3% increase. Supplies, pistol range, 8% increase due to HEPA filters and lead removal. We qualify 2 times a year with other state-mandated training we do in our range. We also use St. Charles's rifle range. Automotive supplies, we're looking at a 9% increase due to the cost of per gallon. Last year, it was $3 per gallon. Finance anticipated it being $4. Per the AAA current average in our area right now, it's $3.66. Office supplies, we're not looking to increase. Postage, we're looking to decrease. Maintenance for other materials, we're looking at a 16% decrease. Planning and research is a 3% increase due to the on-site reaccreditation costs, which we talked about. Our safety program, we're looking at 18 reduced costs due to reduction of items. We used our AEDs 8 times in 2022, 3 times so far in 2023. And the price of AED pads has increased because the AEDs only come with 1 pad now instead of what they used to come with. Our community relations, we're looking at increase 8% due to dare expenses and some of our giveaways and some of our special events, which, as you know, that's something that people look forward to, is some of the giveaways when they bring their families to the events. We're not looking at any increase for prisoner detention or emergency management. Police and Fire Commission is going to be another big expense. We have to do a promotional exam. We do it every 3 years. Also, too, it's costing us $200 for each police officer going through the testing process. And if we hire them, we're looking at costs of approximately $1,400 for each police officer. And as I mentioned, we're going through pretty much 3 testing cycles a year, which used to only be 1 testing cycle for every 2 years. We're not looking for contingencies increase at all. Equitable sharing, we talked a little bit that we would like to use it for the remaining part of the flock agreement. So for flock, we currently have 2 of our cameras installed. They're looking to install the rest of them Monday and Tuesday. There was a little hiccup with the county going through their permitting process, so they finally got that worked out. And they mentioned that we owe a half payment, and they would prorate the rest of our cameras for the upcoming contracts since the other cameras weren't installed. And I know, Renee, I know you had a lot of questions on flock, so if you need, Will has some of our success stories that we currently had from our 2 cameras, if you'd like to hear those. So that is the police department's budget. Once again, I really appreciate the board's assistance. As you can see, we do not take our residents with what they pay in taxes lightly, and we worked really hard to get this budget where it's at. Unfortunately, we ran into some issues, as I mentioned, with inflation and some other costs like that.
It wasn't, it's not something that's glaring, but it's just more of a curiosity question. Under the K-9 expenses, does that include Maverick? Or is that Luther?
So Maverick was generously donated by Canines for Comfort, and then one of their other companies actually provides all the food. The only expenses that we incur, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, is when we do the grooming for Maverick, and then also for vet expenses.
Is Luther due to retire soon?
Luther is anticipated to retire. We were told by Mike Kamisic, his handler, it potentially could be any time within the next few months.
So do we anticipate an expense to replace Luther then?
So at this time, we took a look at everything, and we took a look at what the use of the canine dog was, and at this time, we would not be looking to replace the canine unit. What we found is we get cooperation from other canines from other police departments, including a lot of sheriff's departments, which the board has asked us for, looking out for ways to improve expenses. We get a lot of community engagement from having Maverick, and also, too, we're utilizing more drones than ever before, which supplements the use of a canine program. So every time we have a missing person or any type of other, like criminal or serious offender who's on foot, you'll see our drones out there along with other towns' drones as well, too.
So we're sharing another K-9 unit from other places.
That is correct, and
I would just say Jeff looked at, 2 years of research on when we deployed Maverick and how we deployed him, and
You mean Luther? Was it?
did I say Maverick? I'm sorry, we're deploying Maverick all over the place.
Yeah, because if Maverick's getting grooming, I think the mayor should get grooming.
Definitely.
Pedicure. Luther, who has served us for a very long time and has done a great job, but we looked at 2 years of his recent activities and training, and we found that we can duplicate those services with our regional assets that we have available to us. And like Chief mentioned, we now have the availability of drones that help in those searches and those things that we would use him for. So we're going to let him retire. And like we do when anybody else retires around here, we looked if we needed to replace him.
Hey, Todd,
I'm sorry?
on the equitable sharing on page 24, is it considered an expense until it's reimbursed? Why, I don't understand. To me, my understanding, I don't understand.
But equitable sharing is still an expense, and then we take it out of restricted funds to cover the expense.
Okay.
It doesn't work the same way as businesses do, Joe. You'll find that out after a long time. Yeah.
Under vehicle setups, these are for the new vehicles that we're looking to purchase, correct?
that is correct, the 3 new vehicles we talked about.
Do we have a company in our Brewster Creek industrial area that does police officer vehicle setups?
So Auto Truck used to be our vendor, but we've been utilizing UltraStrobe for a long time, and we're just really happy with the way that they set up the vehicles. And they're actually the ones who come out with our weekly maintenance too, since they're the ones that build the vehicles that actually are able to tackle any of the issues we have with any of the squad components.
Just curious why we're not utilizing businesses in town, in the village.
I can't really speak for Auto Truck. I don't even know if they are building cars anymore. It's been such a long time that we utilized them.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Chief, great job on your first presentation. Nice, Chief. Well done. I did have a couple questions on the equitable sharing. Are there any other items in the professional development detail or training or the travel, continual education that can be covered under that fund? Or is there anything else in this budget that is eligible to be covered under that fund? And if so, is there a reason it was left out, or?
So we certainly can take a look at it. As I mentioned, I want to make sure that we have funding for other stuff we may need it for. Because as I mentioned, for the body camera program, eventually it's going to cost $500,000. So right now, we're asking for equitable sharing right now for $100,000. And yes, I'm really hoping there'd be an opportunity for a grant or two, but if that never happens, I would ask then the board to utilize the remaining equitable sharing to pay for those type of costs instead of using it for some smaller type things that we're asking the board for.
Is that equitable sharing, is it a pool of money that other people pull from?
It is not, no.
Our-
Strictly the funds that we get from our task force officer and her involvement in cases. So therefore, we wouldn't be able to use it for, like, for instance, our drone. If you remember, the village wanted to use it, and they were not allowed to use it because it's got to be for police department, law enforcement purposes only. We can't share those resources with any other entity within the.
Those funds come directly from her activity, so then they are allocated back to us. But they do have an expiration date, right, Chief?
I believe there is an expiration date, that is correct, from what
So we
Patrick
keep
told me.
track of that as well.
And it continues to fluctuate and grow and
So how the fund is replenished is directly relates to whatever this officer does.
That is correct.
Chief, you mentioned that the increased cost of DUCOM, are we locked into a contract with DUCOM at the current time?
So that's a great question. Actually, I had a chance to talk to Village Administrator Schumacher about it. If we would try to leave DUCOM, it's not very a clean cut. Reason being is if you take a look at some of the fees, we're on year 6 of 15 of providing the annual cost for their facility. We would also be on the hook for all the new police radios that we got. What are the costs of the radios, Kyle? They're about $5,000 a piece. So it really just would, it'd be a very hard, difficult cut. But I did have a conversation with their executive director. I actually met with her, and I did mention to her that we were just really disappointed that their fees actually went higher what current inflation is. And I told her that, you know, if it continues to go this route, it's just not really sustainable. So she said she was going to take a look at it.
Could we be looped in on what your findings are? And also, what do other municipalities do in these situations if they don't use DUCOM?
So around here, there's pretty much, there's 3 dispatch centers. 2 are through the DuPage County ETSB, that's DUCOM and ACDC, which is Addison. And then the other one is the Northwest Central Dispatch. I do know just from our involvement with DUCOM, a lot of places don't always just readily accept people. Like, there's a lot of votes going on and discussion because Des Plaines wants to actually move into DUCOM. And when you have other agencies move in, they take up some of the other dispatchers and airtime and stuff like that.
What does Streamwood use?
Streamwood uses Northwest Central.
Are their fees comparable to what we're paying?
You know, I was provided some fees from the Streamwood chief, and I could just share with you that it's the fees that they were given. I don't know how that applies to airtime radios, equipment like that.
Yeah.
As I said, that is just a really just difficult conversation even to try to get some answers to, just because of the continued commitment and payments that we're obligated to for DUCOM.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Chief, just a ballpark figure, if you would, as to what the Safety Act has added to this budget. Do you have an idea? I know the body cams, probably we wouldn't be getting those now, right? We'd probably be maybe getting them down the road, but we certainly wouldn't be getting them yet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, there's just a lot of just moving parts to it. I think a lot of it I could just share with you has to do with what's in equitable sharing just for year 1 of stuff. I mean, body cameras are never going to go away. I mean, you see our 5-year commitment is $500,000. I mean, that's a lot of money that isn't going away. And then we're entitled to a lot of the different training. So trying to get our instructors certified, and we got to get our classes certified through our Let's Be and NEMERT in order for the officers to get credit for them. It's just been a real challenge. And we're, even with, you know, the court ruling that's supposed to be coming out in the next month or two, that won't change the Safety Act. That'll just change bail bond reform. which we're getting ready to implement if the Supreme Court rules that they're going to go back to a cash bail system.
Yeah. So I just out of curiosity, the total line item costs that went up around 200,000, and I would guess that it's at least 200,000 for what we have to implement for the Safety Act. Would that be a fair statement?
I would say that's pretty accurate,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Okay.
Once again, thank you for all your time.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you all, the officers, for being here. It's great to see you all.
Mayor, you could ask that same question when we do Public Works, because the requirements that the state is putting on lead services with no money behind them.
Yeah, the state likes to add stuff without adding any
Unfunded.
funding.
Cutting.
Unfunded.
Is that it, Mr. Daney? Thank you, Chairman Daney.
For that now.
So that will end our committee, and we'll go into the budget, and then we'll go back into the committee. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the committee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Daney, seconded by trustee Gunstein. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are, once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for March 7, 2023, Act Number 2. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to again please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Here.
Gansey?
Here.
Gunstein?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Laporte?
Here.
Swansky?
Present.
President Wallace?
Here. We have a few items on the committee this evening. First is Building and Zoning Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. We have one item on our agenda, and that is the Lake Street and Park Boulevard Concept Plan. The petitioner is requesting a concept plan review for a mixed-use development on 7.89 acres of property located on the south side of Lake Street and Park Boulevard intersection. The proposed development consists of an office, commercial building, senior care building, and a senior independent living facility. The 30,400 square foot, two-story commercial office building is proposed along Lake Street frontage. The building would be marked for medical offices and retail use. The proposed elevation would be comprised of brick with a stone base. The second two-story senior care building would be approximately 51,000 square feet and be divided into three uses: assisted living, inpatient rehabilitation, and adult daycare. The five-story senior independent living facility is proposed to be 66 feet tall and contain approximately 95 apartments. The development is proposed identified curb cuts that align with the existing traffic signals at Lake Street and Park Boulevard. The secondary connection is provided on North Hale Avenue. With that, would you like to add anything, Ms. Stone?
I just want to remind the committee that whenever a project does not comply with the village's current comprehensive plan, we recommend that they go through and submit a concept plan for your review and to get feedback. The previous application we got for this back in 2003 was for a church, so this is a complete change in use than what was proposed. The petitioner is present. Again, this is a concept plan, so that's why you don't have full building elevations, you don't have a landscape plan. This is really to get feedback from the board on this project. David Schaefer, their architect, is here.
Any comments from the committee?
I do have a couple questions on it. The rear access that enters and exits the property from Hale, I would anticipate at some point that the traffic or the driving community is going to realize that that is a quick cut through, and it's going to increase traffic onto Hale. Is it necessary to have that open?
It's something that we typically like to have a secondary access, especially when there's senior housing. It's something that they could possibly fence off and make it emergency access only. But the original plan was to make this a public street and to have it curve through and be a very direct route, which staff was opposed to. So we wanted something that meandered a little bit more through the site.
Instead of fencing it off, can we just put up signs that says emergency vehicles only?
Yeah, we could.
I agree with Trustee Gunstein, that could create a lot of traffic in that neighborhood. And there's a early learning school on Taylor Avenue, which could increase traffic, which could be not good.
I think at one time there was a plan to extend Park
Independence.
Boulevard to, to Taylor. or to Prospect,
It
wasn't
was
it?
originally supposed to connect to Prospect. So the cul-de-sac was supposed to connect, kind of swerve through here and then come up and connect to Park Avenue.
Are there
That's what's on our
easements?
plans.
Are there easements that would allow that to still happen instead of going on to Hale?
At this point, no, there aren't any easements. It was basically a line drawn on the future land use plan.
In charcoal?
Chalk.
Dry erase. Dry erase.
Is there any other comments from the committee?
I'm curious, I don't know if I've heard the term adult daycare before. Is that where I'm headed, or adult daycare? I've never heard of that. What, is that like you drop your seniors off there? I'm serious, I don't even, is that what it is?
I wish they would, I wish they'd find another name for it, but my understanding is it's incredibly.
You'll be there any minute.
I wish they would find another name for it, but I think it's very popular.
Is it? I mean, it sounds like a good idea, just people that need to have a half-day.
A lot with memory care, I believe. It's,
Need a break?
it's connected with folks that are having memory care issues and relief for caregivers.
And in the inpatient rehab, so that's just kind of like a hospital thing?
Right, so it would still be for seniors, so after they've been hospitalized, before they're able to go back and live independently.
And the senior housing is just not really assisted living, just like 55 and over?
I believe so, it's completely independent living.
So it's just like 55 and over housing?
Correct.
Is a petitioner here? What would be your time frame on a development like this?
First phase would be the office building, and that they're hoping to, break ground this year.
Okay, so it would be very phased
It'd be a three-phase project, yes.
over the course of
3 years.
3 years?
Yep.
Is there a future development on the SR-6 site that's adjacent to it? Or is that part of this petitioner's property?
So this lot, when the church originally bought it, they sold off that western kind of triangular piece,
Okay.
which is owned by a separate entity.
What type of office space are you anticipating? Just professional services?
Right, doctors.
Okay.
And then the ground floor would be some retail. They're talking maybe a pharmacy and commissary that could be used by others in the community as well.
Do you have other do you have other like complexes kind of like this? Because it seems all coordinated.
I'm the architect.
Okay.
So, I've done other types of facilities, but this particular client, I don't know if they have other complexes like this.
Okay.
Ms. Stone, would it, go ahead.
I think it looks good.
I think it's a great use for
Yeah.
Route 20 and
Have you tried to rent an office around here?
not available.
No.
Would it be unreasonable to put an access into the property adjacent to it? So whatever use decides to go in there, they do have access instead of creating their own curb cut?
Right, we would anticipate there being a cross access easement to the west.
Okay.
Do we require Route 20 to have walkways, bike paths? And would it be required for this?
That would be up to IDOT. It's something that we would strongly encourage and coordinate with them.
Any other questions?
I think it looks great.
All right. Thank you for being here, and that's all we have under Building and Zoning tonight.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Give me a second.
I'm assuming you got enough information, feedback for the concept to think that we're okay with that concept.
I'll direct them
Did
to
you-
proceed with a full development application.
Did you decipher our comments correctly? Next item, we have Police and Health Committee Chairman Suwanski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our item for review this evening is a memorandum detailing the proposed revisions, adoptions, and developments to the Village of Bartlett's 2023-2025 Emergency Operations Plan. The EOP is required to be reviewed and submitted every 2 years. The purpose of the EOP is to provide the most updated basis for a coordinated response before, during, and after a disaster incident affecting the Village of Bartlett. After reviewing the 2020 to 2022 EOP, several of the annexes and information were outdated. Therefore, the EOP was completely revised and modernized to address current response procedures, required guidelines, and outlining the village's capabilities and procedures when faced with emergency situations. I think I'll turn that over to Commander Rabaski.
Thank you, Trustee SUWANSKI. Hi, my name is Kyle Rybaski. I serve the Village of Bartlett in the capacity of Patrol Commander and the Village Emergency Management Coordinator as well. So thank you for allowing Sam and I to be here and to discuss our new emergency operation plan with all of you. We're very proud of this plan due to all the work and collaboration from all the department heads putting this plan together, and we feel that this plan will allow us to better serve our community. Before getting started, there's a lot of people that I would like to thank that made this happen. The department heads in the Bartlett Fire Protection District for their collaboration and development of this plan. Chief Percalis, Deputy Chief Durbin, Deputy Chief DEYNE for their support and flexibility to work on this project, and for sending me and investing in me and to go to all these courses. I'd also like to thank Sam Hughes for helping me and helping on this project with all the links, checklists, and organizing all the meetings with everybody. And then Sam and I would also like to thank the village administrator, Ms. Schumacher, and Assistant Administrator Scott Skricky for allowing us this opportunity to share our plan with all of you and supporting us along the way. And lastly, on the people, I'd like to thank Christy Stone and Larry Pinzak for reading all 400 pages and
Really don't have a
grammar,
life, do you?
formatting, providing input, and taking the plan really to the next level. So as I just said, it is shy of 400 pages, and we understand it's a lot to read. But the purpose of the discussion is to give you, kind of like I look at it, the cliff notes of what is in the plan, the purpose, and what your role will be in an emergency situation when the Emergency Operations Center is activated. The Emergency Operations Center, or the EOC, what it is basically just a room filled with stakeholders and department heads working together to assist the people that are on the scene with resources and planning. We do this plan is because it allows us funding, grant opportunities, community preparedness, and it helps our counties understand what our capabilities are. In simplest terms, I think of the emergency operation plan like a coach's playbook on how to handle a variety of situations. It's broken down in 5 different parts. You have the basic plan, you have the annexes, or what I call the situations or hazards, continuity of operations, and continuity of government. I didn't come up with this, or we didn't come up with this. The plan was a specific order and specific language because it has to follow certain guidelines set forth by the administrative code. After attending numerous emergency management classes, we realized that our plan needed to be revised and modernized to address current response and recovery procedures. We needed to meet the required guidelines and updated our resources needs and tactics to determine what our capabilities are when dealing with emergency situation. Therefore, we completely revamped our plan. It not only meets the requirements, but it was organized in a way to make things easier to those members in the Emergency Operations Center to find what they needed and to lay out the roles and responsibilities for almost any given situation. We worked really closely with DuPage County on this plan, and they accepted our plan as of this morning, saying that it meted all their standards. We'll be getting a letter here soon from them. But they mentioned when doing it that they're going to be using our format for all the other villages or municipalities in DuPage County as a template and doing it that way moving forward. So that was quite a compliment. So let's get to the plan and show you what's in here. Here, what's different from the last plan is that it is broken down. The mayor has a little saying he's accepting the plan in here for everybody, and that all the department heads are approving the plan and have the input and buy-in into this plan and development of it. Like we said earlier, that it was designed in a way to make things easier for the user. So the table of contents, if you click on it, it'll take you exactly to the page that you need to make it more user-friendly. The plan now contains numerous checklists, online links, thanks to Sam, and quick reference guides to have the department heads, the mayor, and other stakeholders have a starting point when arriving in the Emergency Operations Center. So, for example, when the mayor declares an emergency proclamation or disaster, we created a quick reference guide and a link to take them to that process. No more time wasted trying to find out the required documentation. And as you see here, here's one of the links we'd click on it and we'll show you the forms and how to complete those forms as well. You also see on this plan that contains numerous flow charts, tables, maps, matrices, and organizational charts to better assist the members in the EOC. That's one of the flow charts to get us started. Probably the best feature added is the roles and responsibilities developed for every annex to allow the user to have quick reference guide. If you go to page 68 here, show you exactly what that is. Oh, I think I just was there actually. So what we developed in here, these are all the people you see in this table up here. I know it's kind of hard to see up there, or who have a seat at the table at the EOC. When they get started, they go into the room, they sign in, and they got to say, well, what are my roles and responsibilities? That's what everybody's trying to figure out. We created these checklists and these guides for them to print out automatically to go to here to get them started on what they need to do. As everybody starts arriving in the EOC, then we can start formulating a plan, briefing each other, and then hitting the ground running on other objectives to do. Each annex or situation we talked about has this big red box that you see right here. In there it has everyone that has a seat at that table, and then to the right of that is what the responsibility is. So they can start saying, hey, what is my responsibility for this annex? They can go to that and start hitting the ground running on there. So taking all the guesswork out of everything, making things a little bit simpler for everybody that's in there. Now, you all may be wondering, what is your role in the event of an emergency situation? And the truth is, you all have a very crucial role in emergency management. Some such things that you'd be responsible for would be providing leadership and motivation to the members of the community. You'd be empowering staff to implement response plans. You'd be serving as a liaison between the community and the members of the EOC and addressing the community's concerns and needs to the village administrator. You'd be supporting the functions and actions of the EOC to those members of the Bartlett community. You'd be establishing disaster spending parameters, authorizing funding of emergency projects exceeding current funding levels, authorizing contingency contracts, approving the waiving of standard policies to facilitate response and recovery processes like bids, paperwork requirements, benefit changes, and providing direction and vision during the recovery and post-event restoration processes. Now, on here, I want to show you what our EOC looks like, and we have a couple different places just in case something happens to our original EOC. Right now, our EOC is located on our police department training center on the second floor. It's divided in half. The left side is going to be the emergency operations center. As you can see here, the training room is divided in half. It's all the people, what the support says. We added GIS. We added a whole bunch of different people that should be inside that room. And then right closely is located is like the staging room. And in there, you'll see the trustees are situated apart from the Emergency Operations Center. However, you guys are linked to the Emergency Operations Center through the village administrator and village president. The village administrator and president will keep you informed and updated. Your leadership will be carried through them in the EOC's operation and objectives. And so as things arise, we'll be going back and forth, getting information, updating us, and so you're very close by to everything. So going through the annexes, I'm just going to touch upon the highlights, not going through all 21. And like Trustee SUWANSKI said, we have a total of 21 annexes in here, far exceeding what's required. We also have 3 new appendixes that were added into this as well. And some of the things that were added in here, as you'll see, is like debris management. That's something that we didn't have in our previous plan, but it actually accounts for 75% of the total cost of recovering in a major incident. So now we have a plan that goes through the process of collecting the debris, what do we do with it, how do we transport it, all that kind of stuff, because really the state's only going to pay you one time to move that debris from location to location. They're not going to pay us 5 times. We'll be on the hook for that, something like that. We also have something in here called damage assessments. That's kind of Christy Stone's area. So what's important about damage assessment is once we have an incident, let's say like a blizzard or tornado that goes through town or flooding, which we've had, our team will go out there and do damage assessments to determine how much damage cost, how much funding is available, what resources are needed, and then it will help the mayor decide if we need to declare a disaster or not and get us those resources. So I know Chief Percalis talked about earlier on the Highland Park shooting, and in reality that kind of hit close to home when doing this plan. So we developed a family reunification annex, which we didn't have before, and an active shooter threat annexes. And actually looking through the other people's plans and such, many people around us don't have an active shooter annex, believe it or not. These were not required, but there are a lot of moving parts to organize and run a family reunification center. In most situations, this should be established within the first 2 hours of any incident, and as you can imagine, there's just a ton of moving parts to set up that family reunification center. We also created a cyber attack annex. Sitting down, John Peebles and I attended a 2-day course on this, and then sitting down with Chris Hosteller. This threat has been becoming more common across the country. In fact, in 2018, Atlanta, Georgia had a ransomware attack demanding $50,000 from them. They didn't pay the ransom, of course, but it ended up costing Atlanta, Georgia $2.6 million to recover from this in a week of a complete shutdown of their computer programs. So it is very important that we have something in place to safeguard us and to help us go through with those things. We also have a severe weather hazard in here, and obviously just with 4th of July, the chief had mentioned, we do have those storms that do hit us up here. That plan helps us get through what we're going to deal with those severe weather annexes, and also allows us, since we're a storm-ready community, it fits in that need, which is a requirement for them as well. So in here as well, we have a continuity of operations plan, which basically is a village lines of succession if something were to happen, and how we're going to safeguard our critical data records and applications. We have a plan for continuity of government plan, which I wanted to point out to all of you. Let's say the mayor's on vacation in the Caribbean, and we get hit by a blizzard, and he can't make his way back because O'Hare shut down. So in this plan, it shows the next delegation would go to the most senior trustee to take over, and if that person was unavailable, go to the next senior trustee to take over those roles and come back here. So I thought that was important for you guys.
Senior by age or by?
Senior.
Sure, that was not a
Well, I think we can move on.
in the plan.
You guys can't vacation together.
So you're probably asking, how does this all come together? Let's say Bartlett gets hit by a multiple-day blizzard. Each annex has an assigned incident commander chosen based on experience and understanding what resources are needed. So if it was a blizzard, we would pick Dan, the Public Works Director, to be our incident commander for that incident, since he has the most experience to understand those resources needed. Each department head in the EOC would support the incident commander and work to complete the objectives. Public Works would be clearing snow and getting those roadways open. Planning and Development would handle damage assessment needs for the residents, businesses, and infrastructures. The Finance Director would assist with funding needs and review the damage assessments. Police and Fire would assist with emergency response needs, GIS, handling mapping disaster apps, and trustees, you would be responsible for liaison with the community, providing leadership and establishing spending with the community and our spending parameters and expressing the community needs to the village administrator. You all get the picture. Now, the process has to be fluid, and the situation's focus can change and evolve as well. The incident commander may need to change. Given the same blizzard scenario, let's say that there's a fire now at Deer Park Circle's apartments on top of this blizzard. The Bartlett Fire Chief would take over as incident commander to address that emergency. Eventually get turned over back to the Director of Public Works when things get under control. Or we may decide to run both emergencies at the same time with 2 incident commanders under what's called a unified command structure. Either say it has to be fluid based on the situation faced and what resources we have in time. And in this plan, it discusses what that transfer command is, how to do unified command, and all that kind of stuff. So I know this is a lot for everybody to digest. And 400 pages, if you haven't looked at it, is a lot to digest.
395.
It's close. But how do you, how does one person eat an elephant? You take one bite at a time, right? So that's how we're going to break down this into bite-sized pieces that are manageable, make it easier for everybody that's there to make this happen. I thank everybody for your time and your continued support. It takes an entire community and a village to recover from emergency and disaster. But with this leadership and with this amazing community behind us, we're confident that we will be able to overcome this emergency together. Please, are there any questions for Sam and I?
I do. So I think that it's great to have a plan, and there's so much information here. How do you plan on training to this so everyone knows what to do in an instant, or is that up to you if something happens to kind of make sure whoever needs to do what they need to do?
So you're both correct on both of those. So we're in discussions and the processes. We just developed that emergency management team that contains approximately about 15 members of the department, or all across Public Works, Fire Department, village staff. I mean, so it's really well-rounded, which is good. We're starting to crawl, walk, jog, and run throughout this process, because this is something new to us. So with this, in the near future, we hope to meet and get everybody on that team and all the department heads together. We're gonna do a training on how an EOC works, what are the expectations. We've been sitting down with everybody, kind of giving them that feedback as it is already. And then we hope to just build upon this to get it much better. But then the second part of that, yeah, that is my job, is to be the facilitator and make sure things are running smoothly and to answer those kind of questions when things do come, and also know how to get those resources when things do happen.
So Sam and Kyle did a great job of sitting down with each of the department heads and their staff who are identified in this plan. There are two ways to practice. There's a tabletop exercise, and there's also the full-scale exercise, and those are on timetables that are required of us for the plans. And so, you know, you will do a tabletop once, and then you'll do the on full scale. And Kyle writes those and works with all our partners on putting those together. We did, when was our last one, Kyle? It was with, we did a tornado with the Park District.
We did a tornado tabletop just last year in 2022, and then we just did a mini tabletop with a lot of our command staff and Public Works back this summer as well on incident involving like a parade shooting at 4th of July. So we do try to get the training as much as we can, and we do have a lot of involvement from department heads on that as well.
I had reached out and had asked, and you guys had gotten back to me with regards to train derailments. They seem to be the thing right now, and we are surrounded by train tracks on 3 sides of the town. It sounds like from the information I got back from Paula that we are versed in that type of emergency management. If you just want to speak a minute or two on that, that would be great.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So with the coach's playbook or the annexes, we have different situations. There might be a handful of annexes that fit a certain need depending on what it is. So if we do have a train derailment in here, that would be covered under transportation, which is the annex on here. How do we get that? What resources involved? We'd be reaching out to Metro or to Canadian National, whoever that stakeholder is, inviting them to our EOC to work through those processes, because they have a lot of policies and procedures and also resources that we don't have available to help us with that. We'd also look at our hazards in our oil hazmat situations. That was a big concern with us, with not only transportation throughout town, but also some of the businesses that we have out west have the ammonia and all those kind of things. So what's good for us is they're required to have their own plans in place that we'd be utilizing with them as well if that was a business. Same thing with Metro, or not Metro doesn't transport, but the different train companies, they would have to have their own hazmat plans in place as well. And if there is a hazmat spill like we saw in Ohio, there'd be a lot of moving parts to that to make that taken care of. We'd also be working with the environmental agency to making sure that hazmat doesn't go further. We'd be looking at our evacuation plan in here to make sure what is in the air, how we would evacuate all those people that are affected in that area. And the good news is we have plans for all of that to break it down in those simplest terms. And as they get deeper into the weeds, then we have our general orders and different things along the line that.
Is that response from those companies immediate? I mean, if there's a train that's spilling chemicals that are hazardous to the people of Bartlett, do we have to wait a few hours to hear from XYZ rail company, or?
Absolutely not. No, we take charge right away. We'd be working with our fire protection district, who would take lead on that right out of the gate to control the issue. The police would also be working with them to isolate the area, set up a perimeter, prevent anyone from getting there. We'd be notifying the public through all these different ways that we have in this plan on how to tell them to keep out of the area, what to do, either shelter in place or to evacuate. That's when we'd be opening up the EOC to get all those plans. We'd be on the phone with them saying, hey, you guys need to get a representative out here as soon as possible. But we wouldn't wait for them to get there. We would start taking charge right away.
And when those kinds of events elevate to the state and federal level, when Kyle mentions the trainings that he's been to, Sam's been to them, I've been to them, the National Incident Management Training, and the FEMA training, that's so that we're able to all speak the same language when those events, you know, rise up through different levels of government. So those are long trainings. They're intense. Now they're, luckily for Sam, they're online. I had to do them in person way back in the Stone Age, but it's good information to have, and we dedicate a lot of time and resources to being prepared.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I would just think that, especially in an instance like in Atlanta, I'm hoping that we're prepared not to have that happen with the firewalls and everything else we have, right? But that'd be disastrous if all your computers go down and everything happens.
Yeah,
I don't know how you catch up from that.
Well, I will tell you that we have paper copies of all these plans, just in case.
But it's not quite as fun as pushing the little thing and it takes you right
No,
there.
it's not as much fun. But we do have, paper copies. We have them in multiple places because, and a lot of our partners have copies of these plans as well. There are some safety restrictions on them, which is why you got them like an executive session document.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful with some of that information. Chris will go into some greater detail when we do his budget review with central services, but we do have some additional funding for some cybersecurity components.
I would just encourage, Commander, if we would have more public training exercises, in large-scale situations, maybe more posters at the 4th of July event or something like that where people aren't just scattering, That would be probably helpful for residents, just to have more of the training exercises so people know what to expect. Everybody right now, it seems like the olden days, you hear the siren go off and you're like, what do I do? Right? What do I do? What is the event? Every Tuesday morning I find myself doing that. But yeah, that would be great if we could pick a few of these that you think are most likely and then try to run some actually real life scenarios.
Is there any,
Additional ones.
is there anything for community? Can the community volunteer to, if you guys are overwhelmed in an event and you're going to need volunteers from the community, is there any advanced training that the community members, like a neighborhood watch, but only for emergencies?
So in this plan, that was something I didn't mention in here. We never had a volunteer or donation section in this plan, or in a previous plan. We did create that because that is such an important feature right now as volunteers. What do you do with all the volunteers that are here? Are we able to manage all those volunteers? Because that is a huge undertaking in itself. And then what do you do with all those donations? In the plan, we do have listed many of our Hanover townships, all our townships, Wayne townships, all of them as assistants. What's nice and our biggest curse, it was a challenge doing all 3 counties on this. We're a few that have to do something like that, but the blessing on that is we get 3 counties of resources that come to us in a snap of a finger or a phone call. They come with CERT teams, volunteers as well. We have the Salvation Army, we have Red Cross, we have all those people that do this on a regular basis that come. We do have our BC3 that can help out as well. So there are different things that are in here that are listed in there that we're working with and developing. And I really like the idea of the education portion of it to the community as well and training. We are due for our, Ms. Schumacher was saying, our exercise, I believe next year, we're due to a whole full-scale one again involving the community and role players and things along the lines of that.
Because I think it's important to communicate that there is a plan for all of these different scenarios, because there probably are a lot of people in the community who would never even think that there is a formalized plan. It's probably not on their radar. So I like that idea. Thank you. Well, I'll put a lot of work into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think,
Use it.
Yeah, right.
I think it's important, it seems like the next closest step would be for people to take out our power source, right? That's like what seems to be the thing these days. So I'm glad that there's a section on energy, so, yeah, it's good.
If there's no other questions, we forward this over.
I do not. Very well done.
Yep.
Ray, there's going to be a test on this, too. Page-
I have,
So forward this.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you, Chairman SUWANSKI. I will move it forward and get it signed.
okay, we're going forward.
Finance and golf, and I suggest that we take a quick 5-minute break.
Oh, we're back.
All right. So the next item we have on our agenda for the Committee of the Whole is Finance and Golf Committee Chairman DEYNE.
Yes, planning and development is next. Christie?
Thank you.
She is on the bump.
I am just going to start with a few highlights from last year. Our department has been incredibly busy. As you can see when you drive through town, we have buildings going up in Blue Heron Business Park, in Bluff City Industrial Park, in Brewster Creek Business Park, and in downtown Bartlett with the construction of more. We have added $135 million in value with the cost of these projects this past year. We have issued over 3,000 permits. We have express permits. Our goal is to get those issued within 3 days of the application. We have, last year, I love the new program because I can look at all the data. We issued 28% of those 1,200 permits within 1 hour. The 73% were issued within the same business day. My staff is incredible at making sure we are getting our permits reviewed and issued so that we can keep building construction going. That is our priority. We have worked amazingly with the contractors for many of the projects that we have in town. A lot of my staff is hidden, you don't see them, but they are fantastic. They are a great asset for this community. I cannot tell you enough how hard and how busy they work. Our code officers have had more code violations, notices issued, not tickets. Our goal is enforcement. They're out now driving routes. If they see a violation, we'd rather give someone a notice, give them time to get it taken care of. Our goal is not to fine. Our goal is to get compliance, and that's really what we're working towards before we get complaints from neighbors. We don't want to wait to that point. So it's been a big change in philosophy in the department, and it's working. We're actually getting less code complaints now because our staff is out there working ahead of time to nip issues in the bud. We've had municipal code updates. The cannabis dispensaries, we had a few meetings about that last year. Our planning and zoning, by combining those two commissions, we've had 4 cases that were able to get a month shorter than they would have otherwise. It eliminated extra meetings for them. It eliminates staff having to create extra memos, eliminates overtime for having additional minutes that are having to be written. It has really streamlined the process. My department is very focused on being efficient, getting our work done, and doing what we can, evaluating how we can better serve the community. As a part of that, we have some big projects that are anticipated for this year. Grassland subdivision, we're anticipating building permits should start being issued later this summer. As you know, Aldi is going through the development process. Residences at Bartlett Station, we're in talks with the developer to start getting those permits under review as well. I've talked to the property owners in Blue Heron Business Park, Brewster Creek, and Southwind for additional projects. I've had recent talks for a retail development next to True North, which I know our West Side residents have been asking for years. I'm really hoping we can get those plans submitted soon. So I'm going to skip ahead to our budget highlights. Our budget is proposed to increase by 2% this year. After evaluating our staffing needs and what job responsibilities have changed due to the permitting software, I am proposing to eliminate the PDS clerk position. That position previously scanned in all the paper applications that were coming into Laserfiche. We don't have any paper applications anymore.
Yay.
It used to be stacks when you walked into our department. That just doesn't happen. If we do have to scan something in, we hand the originals back to the applicants. So we're eliminating that position. The 2 secretary positions I have right now, when they first got hired, if you looked at their job description, that is not what they do anymore. They were mainly answering phone calls. All of their time was spent doing data entry. Now they are able to look at the permits. Is that application complete? Is it ready for me to send to the reviewer? They are able to follow up on permits, get final inspections scheduled, that people neglect to call in. They are being more proactive. They are doing significantly more, and I think that should be noted in their job descriptions. So we're looking at transitioning them to permit clerks. Our current permit tech, what I thought she did was not what she's doing at all. She is a permit coordinator. That's what her title should be. She works with the general contractors. She works with our finance department, with the bonds. She really coordinates everything and is the main point of contact once that permit is getting close to being issued and until it gets their certificate of occupancy. So I'm proposing that title change as well. She would also then be responsible for supervising the 2 permit clerks. I am not proposing, the next item is capital outlays. I am requesting a 2002 or 22 Ford Explorer to replace our 13-year-old Ford Fusion. There's a matrix that we have to fill out. It scores a 29. Anything 28 points or more is a high priority replacement. We've had to take it into the shop twice this year. There are holes in the vehicle due to rust. I think as a village, with our label is on the side of the car, I think it merits that we no longer have that vehicle in service. Professional development, I think, is very important for my staff. Almost every employee has a certification that they're required to keep up to date on different education credits. We're not adding anything additional from what we've had in previous budget years. Again, all of our professional associations, the current memberships, certifications that we have, everybody is staying current. We've looked at their fees, and none of them are anticipated to rise in the next year, so there were no changes in that line item. If we go to our general government expenditures, you'll see our salaries increased. That's due to the Brewster Creek TIF ending. So some of the allotments where the money came from was adjusted because of that. You'll see a couple line items where it looks like it's decreased significantly. Some of our consultants that we use, Elevator Thompson and fire safety consultants, now bill the applicants directly. So we're not having to pay the bill first, wait for reimbursement. So that's why those numbers have been adjusted. We hired a part-time general inspector this past year. Because of that, we don't think we need as much money for inspectional services. So we're reducing that line item. So that would only be if we have vacations or something like that, especially for our plumbing inspector and our electrical inspector that are more of specialty. So if we need someone for that. And then for our line item justification, we have raised vehicle maintenance slightly just due to some of our fleet is aging in our department. We haven't had a new car since 2017, and that's in both community development and building division. So it's been a while since we've had a new car, so I anticipate maintenance will increase. Other than that, if you have any questions?
Include the code enforcement officers' car?
That does.
How many vehicles are there?
Let me see. We currently have 9 vehicles. One of them is a vehicle that we have taken from the police department that they no longer had in service. We've used that. That vehicle that we're using has 110,000 miles on it.
They're hybrids, aren't they? Or,
We have some hybrids, not all of them.
okay, that's what I think. I've noticed that on the streets.
Are we purchasing hybrids going forward?
We're looking at whatever the state has out on contract and what is available. So the inspectors had asked for an SUV for some of the off-roading that they have to do on some of the sites, especially with some of the industrial projects and some of the bit larger subdivisions.
So you're not proposing to have an assistant?
No.
looking at the planning and development service summary, like in 2017 and 2019, it was $2 million, and this current year, you're proposing 2.2. I mean, I think that's something to really look at and say, that's not a very big jump. I know it's decreased, but looks like you're doing more with less, you know?
I remember asking the prior director about the new software that she was buying a long time ago. I think that you had suggested that and asked if it would decrease or at least shift not only the service to residents and higher quality service, but also the cost involved with paper and everything else. And I think it's done that, so well done.
Same thing like with full-time employees, you know, in 2017 and 18, you were at 17 full-time employees and you have 15.8. I mean, that's pretty remarkable to be decreasing and not increasing.
Efficiency.
All while getting good feedback from developers, how well and efficient Bartlett's planning department runs. And it's trickling out in the industry.
And just for the sheer amount of stuff that we've had going on over the last, since post-COVID, it's been amazing what you've done, so well done.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Thank you, Christie.
When you don't ask for much, it's a pretty easy budget review. Huh?
What would you anticipate your next hire being?
My next hire, we currently have a few open positions so that are in here, they're accounted for. We are looking for a plan reviewer, which for me, ideally, I like to look in the future. We have some planned retirements. I would like to have a planned reviewer, get them trained for a few years on how we do that, and then possibly move them up to a position after there's a retirement. I'm trying to think very forward-thinking on what we can do so that I'm not adding numbers for the bottom line. So we're looking at that. We're also looking for an associate planner right now, but we've done some interviews.
Okay, thank you, Christie. And we have enough time. We can move into golf. I don't want them to have to come back again.
Yep.
So we'll start with golf. And
They're here anyway, Ray.
huh? The what?
They gotta be here anyways, he said.
But not yet. Like, not all three of them.
It's gonna be complicated.
Right. Phil, you want to lead us off?
Good evening, Mayor and Board, and thank you for allowing us to present the golf budget tonight, and also thank you for your support of the golf course over the years.
You don't really mean that.
Of course I do. Of course I do. We have three of us up here that are going to present. I will present the golf budget, the golf portion of the budget, go over a couple of items briefly, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, and then we'll hand it off to Paul and Matt here. As we all know, we're an 18-hole golf course, owned and operated by the village. We do about 32,000 rounds of golf every year. Very, very busy place over the years. We are the host of just about every community-based golf event that happens in this area. Bartlett Lions Club, Bartlett Rotary Club, Bartlett Chamber of Commerce, most of the sports organizations within the village. Again, very, very busy place. We are projecting a 10% increase in revenue going forward because golf is in a very good place. The way we're going to be able to increase those revenues, we are implementing, we're implementing a rate increase this year of $3 on 18-hole fees, $2 on 9-hole and twilight fees. Doing a couple other things that should increase revenue. We are also going to open the golf course earlier during the week. We have historically opened at about 6:30 during the weekdays and always opened at 8 a.m. on Mondays in order to give maintenance extra time to take care of the golf course. And those of you that play golf out there, I think you know that we keep it in phenomenal shape. We are going to open at 6 a.m., which adds about 3 tee times a day, Tuesday through Friday, and we're going to open at 7 a.m. on Mondays. We don't feel that it'll hurt our maintenance practices at all, and that's adding about 18 to 20 tee times a week, and since COVID, demand has increased tremendously for golf, and we feel like that's going to add about $40,000, $50,000 to the bottom line. We're also adding a booking fee. We're all paying fees everywhere we go. Anytime we do anything online, we're paying convenience fees. We're adding a convenience fee to online bookings at Bartlett Hills as well. And also, we are implementing a new point-of-sale system, which this Paul can attest to has been quite the challenge. We've just went live with it about a week ago, but it will offer us the ability to do more marketing through social media and be able to target market our golfers. We can target seniors, we can target residents. It'll be a very nice system once we get it implemented. New for this year, we are going to introduce Saturday nights in June are going to be family golf nights. We've been asked to add some family stuff to the golf agenda. Paul and I are we don't have exact details yet, but what it's gonna be is in Saturday evenings, we're gonna offer Bartlett families a very, very discounted rate to come out and play golf after about 5:30 in the evening, and combine it with some food and beverage options, maybe have some picnic tables down by the halfway house, and just create an atmosphere that's conducive to having families come out to the golf course. Going forward into the budget here, personnel requests there is no personnel request this year. Professional development and professional association are basically the same as in previous years. We are asking for a couple of things in our capital outlay request. Number one being a GPS system for our 76 golf cart fleet. 3 reasons for that. Number one, it has become a kind of a standard in the industry. About 70% of the competing golf courses have this technology. And operationally, it allows us to do a couple of things. It allows us to control cart traffic on days where maybe it's rained the night before and we have to keep carts on, specifically on the cart path. The technology allows us to see in the golf shop where carts are, and that's also going to help us like crazy with pace of play issues, because we can identify where pace of play problems are on the golf course. We can easily pay for that item with a slight increase in cart rates if this is approved. And also, we're going to save a few $1,000s in having less rangers on the golf course. I won't need that to monitor play as much. Second item on our capital is there's a wall. Those of you that play out there know where we park our carts, where you come and get your golf cart to go out. That wall is crumbling and is kind of a hazard right now, and that's going to cost. We've got an estimate of a little under $5,000 to fix that.
Hey, Phil, on GPS,
Yes.
what type of technology do some of those courses have where if you get too close to the green, it shuts your cart off?
They have that.
Yeah.
And that is a dream come true for us.
Yeah.
We have Matt does such a great job keeping that golf course in great condition. We just don't need people driving between bunkers and greens, and you see it out there, some of the places that people feel like they can take a golf cart.
This technology will do that?
We can set up fencing and geofence and keep them out of areas that we don't want to. And keep them from driving off the facility, which, knock on wood, hasn't happened yet.
Can we sell some ad space on there too?
Pardon me?
Can you sell ad space on there?
There is the ability to sell ad space on those units, yes, sir.
Get some of these real estate agents to start sponsoring.
Absolutely.
The question I have is on days where it's cart path only, is there a way to switch the carts to only travel on the cart path only?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Through the geofencing?
Yeah, it's all done through cellular data, yes.
And then is the the estimated cost here, is that inclusive of any maintenance yearly, or is there a maintenance fee or a monthly fee to have these operational?
That is the fee, and that is a repeating cost, just so.
30,000 a year.
But again, that'll be offset by just the increase in fees, so basically, it's a break even for us.
Is the equipment rented, leased? Is that how, I mean, if they're charging you $30,000, are they giving you the equipment for free, and it's a continual cost every year?
It's a continual cost every year. It's their equipment.
It is their equipment.
How often does it get replaced?
When it breaks or when technology changes and they completely revamp. Most of the golf courses that I've seen, I have not seen, changes in yet. It's software changes. Once that screen is installed on the golf cart, it's just updates. Just kind of like a golf simulator where we get updates to the simulator all the time.
Are there options to buy?
I don't know. That's a great question. I would certainly can look into that.
If it gets damaged, are we liable, or do they cover it if something happens?
Pardon me?
If it gets damaged, is the village liable to fix it? Does it get replaced for free, or how does it?
If it gets damaged, that's on the customer. If it's just normal wear and tear, we would be responsible for it, but we will have the ability to, if a customer is doing something to break it, that customer would be responsible.
Is that going to be hard to track, though?
Would it be hard to track? Well, the starter has a record of, when you come out and play golf, the starter knows what time you tee off. It'll say Hopkins, 10 o'clock, and he's going to keep track of what
Cart number
numbers you
95.
have. So we know, we have tracked down some cart damage in the past, yeah. It's not foolproof for sure, obviously.
It's going to keep track of Ray veering off course. His car's going to get shut down more than anybody.
We have to set one card up that can go anywhere for
The special one.
Got it.
What's the timeline for them to implement all the mapping and geofencing for Bartlett?
Well, okay, so, our budget process happens at this time of year. If we're able to get this year, it probably wouldn't be in the carts probably until July or August. It is a time-consuming process.
Bill, I wanted to ask you for some time, we've talked about this GPS. We're going to install these ourselves, right?
No, these are installed by Club Car.
Oh, Club Car will come out?
They do, yeah, they do the installation. It is all through them. Yes.
Okay, great.
They do the maintenance on it as well.
Yeah, I often wondered how that was going, if we had to install them or not, because I was going to volunteer our board to come out there and help you install GPS.
So we get a prorated rate if we install by July or August, or we got to pay the full 30 grand?
It's a 12-month.
Gotcha.
It's a 12 months, or whenever they're.
Why this one? Like, which other ones did you look at, and why was this one a better option?
Well, you typically, when you do GPS, you do it through your cart provider. Our cart provider is Nadler Club Car Sales out of Aurora. That's the type of vehicle we have, so.
Okay.
It's usually to your company you deal with your carts. You can go outside of that, but you will get something, rather than a nice screen you see at a nice golf course, you will get something that looks more like a phone, that it looks cheap, they don't last. I've seen them at other golf courses. I've been at other golf courses where those things are still sitting on the carts, but they don't do anything. Turn them on. So.
Is this a selling point? Like, will people say, Bartlett Hills uses this, I'm going to...
So when COVID hit in 2020, it really did give golf a boom, and most of that boom was that demographic of 30 to 35 to 55-year-olds, and that's who we're seeing more and more, even younger than that, in the 25, 35. They want that technology. They kind of expect all that. Is it a game change? I mean, is it an absolute must? No, but yes, it's an absolute. Yes.
Well, it comes, 30,000 divided by 12 is 2,500 a month. If you could sell $2,500 a month in ad revenue, or sell the summer months to cover the year, you're good to go. If you get 5 ads out there for $500.
So that will be a question I will ask them tomorrow, for sure.
Who monitors all this? Is there a person that's going to be at the golf course full-time monitoring this?
So our golf staff, we will have a computer in the golf shop that that'll tell us where every single golf cart is.
And then the additional revenue based off of the booking and the rounds of golf and the twilights and the family cost, are we still competitive with some of the higher-end golf courses in the area?
Our rates have always and always will be very competitive with the other golf courses in the area, absolutely. Absolutely. We did a rate survey this year, and that's why we're determined we can be a little bit
We have
aggressive.
a beautiful facility.
We do.
This, if it's approved, would add to that. I mean, it's probably a selling point for the younger demographic. It trickles into the clubhouse, it trickles into the bar and the restaurant, so I'm just.
There are
Just
other
wanna make
things
sure
down
that
the
we're
pipeline that
competitive.
Matt and I have talked about, too, little things on the golf course that I think can really help us that are, frankly, they're not revenue increasers, but they are nice touches, like better garbage cans and just nicer presentations, T signs, stuff like that we have to address going forward.
On the digital GPS system, is there a call button for a cart person for drinks or something of that nature?
Yes.
There is.
And I could send like alerts if there's like weather moving in, tell everyone.
Yes, yes.
I was down in Florida, and they do have T signs that sell advertising as well. I'm just want to help. I just want to make sure we have extra money so we could do fun things. And it doesn't-
I think advertising on the golf course is a great idea.
35,000 people, 32,000 people a year.
Hey, Matt, you should be able to implement like a high handicapper extra fee because of all the stuff that you have to fix. Yeah, if we're going to increase fees, it should be based on your handicap, so people like, Gunstein gets charged an extra $10.
Appreciate that.
Because we've seen how much dirt he takes off the course.
Help you cook,
Hey, Matt, why don't you tell them about what?
It'll help us on our end if we don't have to repair, like around the green, we put stakes and rope and chain so the golf carts can't go in there, so we don't have to have stakes, rope, and chain. Aesthetically, it's more pleasing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, yeah.
How many balls did you find in the willow tree? Yeah.
Oh, I was telling them about the when you cut on 16 and all the balls fell out.
I have a question. I'd like to direct to Phil and Matt. How are we doing on new tee box on number 7?
And we don't want to get you killed, Ray. I mean, we because 8's a dangerous, 8 coming up the other way, that's dangerous.
It only took me 2 years to get a tree limb cut down. We're going on the 3rd year for a new tee box over on number 7.
Probably have to.
just drop
check
wherever
the
you went
branch. It
anyway.
probably grew back now.
I see you have an increase in the miscellaneous golf merchandise. Is that in the pro shop?
Yes.
Is there an online purchase option there available?
Not at the moment. With our new point-of-sale provider, that option is out there. We are still working, it is so new to us right at the moment. We are still working through it, trying to run the day-to-day operations, but down the line, that is something we're certainly going to look into. Typically, though, I will say at a public golf course, what you're going to sell online is typically only going to be gift cards. There's not going to be a lot of people looking for a Bartlett Hills golf shirt or anything online. That's typically your destination, your higher-end resort courses, but it's certainly something that we're going to look into. There is the ability to have an online store, yes.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for the golf portion of it?
Real quick.
What about the repairs to the sand traps? Where are we at with that?
We just already bumped around 15 this week, so we're still in the process of trying to knock out 1 or 2 a year, per se.
And Public Works is doing most of that?
We're doing most of it
In-house?
in-house. Yes.
Okay, and then are we going to have to hire that guy again to
I'm trying to do it myself right now.
okay.
Working out how we're doing it, how the shape is forming. The goal is actually trying to do it just in-house. at a lower
Okay.
cost. We got a quote from him last year, and it was quite expensive.
Yeah.
For 2 bumpers, so we're trying to.
I was shocked at that price. I couldn't believe it.
This might
Maybe
be,
the price goes down last year, these places were, a lot of people were dumping money into their golf course the last couple of years. We can look into see if the price will go down, 'cause he was very busy.
The more they would do at one time, the better price would get. Just doing it once a year. You got jobs all over the place, so it's not really
Are they going to be shutting down any holes for the irrigation system when we start that ramp up?
Initially, they would not, but still have to wait on contractors.
This might be more of a question for staff, but down the road, so right now we're looking at the irrigation system. Do we have to replace a roof in a couple of years? Do we have to paint the building in a few years? Do we need new windows? Any major what are we looking for 2, 5, and 10 years down the road? Anything that we need to be aware of?
I have been told that our roof has another, 8 to 10 years of life in it, as far as the roof goes, yes.
So as far as major expenses, we're going to be over the hurdle?
Yeah, fire suppression system's a fortune, yeah.
Fire suppression system.
Yeah, the sprinkler system, yeah. I just want to say one thing, to the public and staff. I've played a lot of rounds of golf at Bartlett Hills and gone through, Phil's our second head professional out there. That's Bob Gavlik was first, and now we have Phil. We've had a couple of groundskeepers before, but man, and I've had so many great comments about Bartlett Hills. It's one of the best public courses in the area. In fact, some people have told me that it is the best. I'm also a member of a private club up here in the area, and to be quite honest, I'd rather play golf at Bartlett Hills than I would at the private club that I belong to. And other people have told me that too. And hats off to you guys over there, because you're doing an outstanding job. Keep it up, because I'll tell you what, we won't have to worry about anything at Bartlett Hills as long as you guys stay on the right track, and you are right now. So thank you very much. That's all I have. Do you want to go to food and beverage now? Mm-hmm. Paul? We're going to do maintenance next. Oh, all right, that's fine.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Board. I will be going over the grounds budget tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time, and I will be happy to answer them. We will start with the grounds personnel requests, and we have none. The next page is capital outlay requests, and the first item is for a debris blower. Our current unit has exceeded its life expectancy by 8 years. The blower is used daily during the season, blowing debris and clippings from playing surfaces. Then when leaves start falling in the fall, we use this blower every single day for about 8 hours a day, so it gets a lot of use around the golf course all season long. The second item is for a utility vehicle. This vehicle has exceeded its life expectancy by 9 years. The utility vehicle is our main source of transportation around the golf course and is used to complete our daily assignments every day. So this vehicle also gets a lot of use every single day. And the third item is for the irrigation system replacement, which was approved in this CIP. Any questions?
The debris blower and the utility vehicle, what are we going to do with them? Auction them, or?
The current utility vehicle we have, we would probably try and keep it, because our staff is growing in size. We're working people less hours, but we're getting more staff, so we kind of also need more vehicles to get around the golf course. Right now, we have a staff of, in season, 13 to 14 per se, and we have 5 utility vehicles to get around. So we kind of got to schedule people together, drop them off somewhere, so we're always kind of got to be observant of what vehicles we're using, what jobs we're doing.
So we're adding, not just replacing, technically.
Yeah.
Matt, explain to the public how important the irrigation system is to a golf course. How many acres? For the layman, they may not understand. It just looks like a big dollar amount, but explain to us the importance of
Yeah.
it.
So the golf course is roughly like 130 acres. The irrigation system, you don't see it. No one sees it. I'm really the only one that sees it, but I think it's the most beneficial part of the golf course. Without an irrigation system, you don't have a golf course. Your golf course would actually die in the summertime. So to keep the golf course open all year round, that irrigation system is vital. Without irrigation, you have no greens, you have no golfers, you have no revenue. So the irrigation system now, it's coming up on roughly 28 years old. almost every single day we're looking at issues with it. We're repairing leaks around the golf course. Fortunately, we haven't had a mainline break yet, but if we had a mainline break, we would have to shut down the system for multiple days. And if you're shutting down your system in the summertime for multiple days, you're, again, losing grass on the golf course. So it's very beneficial. And this new system is all HDPE, so it's high-density polyethylene pipe. And it runs in, I think, roughly 200-foot sections. And these sections are all fused together with heat. So it's almost like they're welding the pipes together. So as long as you have a qualified contractor, the possibility of a leak on the golf course is very minimal. So your chance for a break anywhere is very slim, and repairs are reduced. And environmentally, a new irrigation system, they're designed so efficiently now, you could dial in exactly where you're throwing your water on the golf course. Right now, with water restrictions out in California, which will probably be coming this way over the next however many years, there'll be over here restrictions. I could dial in, or I only need to run a head for 30 seconds, or a quarter spin, or a half a spin, or if a nozzle is cracked, the new system can tell me, head 135, that nozzle's cracked, you're putting out too much water. You can come back in and change all your settings from there.
And how long would this system be good for, roughly?
So there's estimates out there. They're saying at least 50 years. Some say 75 years with the HDPE. You might have to come in and change some satellite boxes around the golf course or a head here or there, but the actual pipe in the ground is designed to last at least 50 years.
Okay. And we've learned from Dan in prior meetings, the infrastructure that they put in Public Works is about 50 years. So using that as as maybe our guide and our standard, it sounds like it's a good system.
Yeah, because right now it's a PVC system, and say the pipe's in 30-foot sections, it's all glued together, and that glue and primer is starting to erode all over the golf course. So you're getting these pinhole leaks all over the golf course, and then you have to determine, all right, where is this little pinhole leak at? You got to dig, and that's not the spot. All right, let me go over here, you got to dig. So you're always kind of trying to figure out where it is.
So technically, we could reduce man hours by having a more efficient system. You're probably wasting water now that you won't be wasting later. You're going to get 50 years out of it.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
50 plus years out of it. So a big cost now, but looking like we do as a staff and as a board, we look at what the investment's going to return over a 50-year time period. It takes a little bit of the bite out of it. And as we looked at the numbers, Bartlett Hills is pretty close to self-sustaining. So a big investment now, but it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I do have a question, actually, maybe for Paula. When is the sprinkler system or fire suppression need to be put in, and what was that cost of that?
I believe their initial estimate we put into the capital budget was $300,000, and that we're just waiting for quotes to come in to go ahead and see that. Based on the condition of the suppression system right now, it should be done as soon as possible, because they can't really ensure how effective the system would be if there was a fire.
Is it because it's older, or is it?
Yeah, it's the original system that was in there, yeah. And it was just, the new systems now are doing other things with, and I'm not an expert on the suppression system, but they're doing things with like nitrogen and stuff that eliminates rusting and leaking. It's just, it's the life expectancy of what we should expect when we put the thing in to build a building.
So the fire department has been helping us figure this out. The fire marshal has been helping us figure this out. Some of the issues that we have with the current system are leaks and pressure, and also, I believe, the pitch of the way that the system is installed. So those are some of the things that we have to fix to ensure it. I mean, I don't want to give the impression that Bartlett Hills is a fire trap, but we don't want it to become one.
How does this potentially affect the warranties that we may have in our insurance policy?
IRMA comes out, and I think they're coming out to do a threat assessment with us. I don't know, in the next couple months. We're working with PW to come out and do that, and the golf course is one of the places that they will inspect. We do not anticipate having a problem with Irma on it, but if they find something that they think is untenable, they'll let us know. Thank you.
And will the replacement impact weddings and banquets?
Now, they're going to do it, supposedly they're going to do it in pieces, so business isn't going to be affected at all.
Excellent.
No, it's just in its infancy stage.
Paul, you may as well continue. Food, beverage.
All right, our next page is professional development detail, and this is the same as last year, no changes. Then next page is professional association detail. The only change would be adding greenkeeper to this line item. We have used it the past few years for golf course data collection and predictive models for fungicide and plant growth regulator applications. It's becoming more of an association now with providing its members with webinars, newsletters, cultural practices and diseases and weather outlooks for our area. It really pays for itself because it allows us to really dial in when we need to spray or if we don't need to spray. And if you're able to push a spray window for your greens or fairways, say you could push your spray 6 days or 7 days down the line per month, you're saving yourself 2 or 3 fairway sprays a year. And a fairway spray roughly is $2,500. So if you could save 1 fairway spray a year, it basically pays for itself, if you look at it that way. And the last page is line item detail. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or I could pass it over to Paul.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor and trustees, for allowing Bartlett Hills Food and Beverage to present our budget. It's going to be exciting for a change to see how a few years of non-COVID sales and events are going to go through, to see what really a potential is going to be for our revenue to get up to. We haven't had that ability to do that for a while. Positively, we went from a very light January through April this year with very few events to up to 45 now to end the fiscal year with. So that's a really positive trend on the last minute that people feel more and more confident to come on out and have their events once again. So those are two very positive things. Going right into, we really don't have a whole lot to add into the budget as far as needs go. The first thing we're going to see is the personnel request, and there's nothing on there for this year. We are going to go into professional development detail. The only thing that really is going to be on there are the Bassett and food handling certifications, and those are good for every 3 years, so some staff needs to put them through, and then the manager certifications for a few $100s, those last for 5 years. Nothing on professional association, and then we go right into the line items as far as golf restaurant goes next. If you have any questions there, I'll certainly try to answer them. Going over to banquet next. There are no capital outlay. It's just professional development again for Bassett and food service manager certifications. Next sheet's going to be all the line items for golf and under the banquet category. That really finishes with Midway, all the Midway items then. Our Midway that was record-setting last year with results. We're looking at that continue to be that cash cow that we're looking for going through this season. We plan on working out in the Midway on some increased signage, some meal deals for people to go ahead and get the complete package of a sandwich, a drink, and a chip for a reduced price to get some more income out of them over in there. We're going to work on the family night that Phil already touched on those Saturday evenings in in June, I'm sure we can be real creative on how we pull off a real good event for all those folks, because they're going to be looking for us for birthday parties and graduations and everything too, and weddings further down the road. So the best way we can handle that kind of stuff is going to carry through and keep getting people to the golf course. That's really it. I can answer any other questions you may have about.
Paul, why don't you talk a little bit about the success you've had with the knot and some of the banquets and some of the brides? We always tend to talk about the negatives and the numbers and everything's going to cost so much. Phil's done a great job and Paul's done a great job with the golf side. Let's hear some of the good things that are coming out with the increase in banquets after COVID.
Well, it's interesting how much it went down and how much we scrambled to go ahead and do those events to go and everything else. And the knot and wedding wire, people use that about 73% of the time. Those people are on that website looking at all the stuff that's on there, all the vendors making their decisions on all those items. 73% of those people go through there. And once they get engaged, about everybody gets something to do with an event, probably within the first 2 months of when they're on there. To have this 5 years straight of the Knot Award and the Hall of Fame Award, which we didn't put on there too. We also, for the first year, going back to Wedding Wire, we got the Couples Choice Award for the first year we reactivated with them. That's addressing a few things that are topics within the wedding industry right now. The first thing I think is you have to have uniqueness. And uniqueness is that new casual package we came up with that adds revenue with lower food costs and lower amount of labor that's on there. So to stay open with people with new ideas, that's not out there nowhere. And we've already booked 5 of those packages specifically just in January so far. That's a big deal. Always being present, answering the phone, having your prices online, having your 360-degree tours available for people, staying active with all the social media, keep all your technology adapting to being on your YouTubes and all that stuff so people can see events and comments, and we have a good presence as far as that goes. And last thing is really being up front with folks when they come on in to unique taste tests. They're there all by themselves, not a room full of people doing a mass tasting at a time. All those specific things that we do are leading up to the success we're going through with all that. The attention to detail that Evan and Laura, Chef Dustin, Pat, all those people go through. They go through hoops. There's like 1,000 different things, any event from start to finish that can go wrong, from planning to carrying it out to make sure that people have all their stuff with them to go. I think we do real well on execution, which gives us probably the best word of mouth advertising, which is free above and beyond, but you have to have those other presences.
Do you guys advertise those top 5 things, or is that like a part of your webpage or part of your presence?
We do a lot of research over the off-season on what we think we need to go ahead and, whether it be Google Analytics or whatever the case might be, and there's some common denominators as you go through the different websites and all the stuff, the industry stuff that we go through, and pulling those out, those seem to be the ones that are most important for the folks that are taking a look out there right now today. So we gear everything we do towards that stuff.
Is there a common comment that the brides make?
Well, the main reason, about 70, I have some of the numbers, 74% are choosing venues right now because of price. 61% are choosing venues because of the fact they have a ceremony site and the venue at the same time, so there's no downtime or picture taking, whatever, they're all there at one time. And the last thing is the uniqueness of the venue. To be able to go out and take pictures on the golf course and have a bridal suite, and we check a lot of boxes off for a lot of people that frankly, very few can do at the price we offer.
So is that what people say if they say, no, like, no, thank you, I'm going somewhere else? Is it price? Is it not having a spot to get married there before a reception?
Price, why they would pick us is price, hospitality, the fact they come in and that we listen to what they say, and we make estimates the day of if they want to go item by item.
But what has someone said that it's, like, maybe you show it to and then they decide not to? What is their reason?
The more unique the castles, the farms, the ranches, the stuff that, a lot of people are choosing those items. We can't compete with that, but we have our own uniqueness that we can offer. We can do ceremonies. It's not a perfect gazebo, or whatever the case might be, but we certainly do a really nice job and get the stuff done.
So now you got to tie in the bachelor party with the golf side of the house. So you get the bachelor party, and then they do the golf.
Possibilities are endless. We're gonna, instead of the $4 hot dog at the Midway, we can serve them the $15 burger from the clubhouse so they can get to the GPS and deliver it out to where they are.
There you go.
There's a load of stuff we can do.
Yeah, and, to trustee Laporte's point, when we talk about golf and Phil brings up the point that we are the preferred location for every civic organization and community event that has a golf outing. The other part of that handshake is at the food and beverage part. And Paul's staff does a great job of working with the planners and the providers to make the post golf, where you're making your raffle money and you're making your auction money, an enjoyable evening for the non-golfers too. So it's a perfect marriage.
It's a great staff on both sides. You get to see Phil and Paul in the morning, and you get to see Evan and the wait staff at the end. It's
Joe, you're 100% correct. The staff that we have at Bartlett Hills, and Paulie's hiding over the back. Wave your hand, Paulie, And I'm sure that Paul will agree. We're very, very fortunate to have Evan and Laura and Dustin with our staff at Bartlett Hills, because the food is exceptional. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to.
Thank you, Ray.
With the partners.
I know I've brought this up a couple times in the past, but have we looked at enhancing our entrance into Bartlett Hills, our signage, maybe some, something to break up that openness when you're driving by now and they put the detention pond in? As you get past that, something to say, hey, we're a wedding venue, and just enhance it generally from a landscaping, hardscape, signage.
Yes, we are working on that. New signage, Public Works is working on. And then when you're driving in, going into the club, that left side, Public Works is also working on enhancing that with like natural plantings. But yes, it's in the works to improve the entranceway and signage.
just an idea, and not that we're Rosemont, but Rosemont has that giant waterfall, and if you actually want to have wedding pictures taken in front of the waterfall, you have to pay for a permit from the city of Rosemont. Not that we want to do that, not that we want to be that, but just so you know that that's out there, and they justify it.
Well, ladies, gentlemen, anything else? Or can we
Well,
wrap
did I
this
see
up?
on the budget that we're getting a sous chef? We adding a sous chef?
That should be a continuation. I think that was activated already last
Yeah,
year.
is it already hired? It's already been hired?
Pat was a cook for us for a long amount of time, and that sous chef has been in place for, I believe, even since the last year. It's
Okay.
nothing new this year.
Gotcha. I know the food is really phenomenal. So. Good.
Okay, can we wrap it up?
Any other?
Phil, Paul, Matt?
Well, thank you very
Ollie,
much.
thank you very
Appreciate
much.
the opportunity.
That concludes everything we had on our agenda for this
Is
evening.
that it? Is that all we have tonight? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by the normal, seconded by Laporte. I'll, clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DEYNE?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein?
Yes.
Hopkins? Laporte?
Yes.
SUWANSKI?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Goodbye.
When it comes